guys, thank you for picking up the second video. Obviously we finished the first video with this screen and we've been trying to take the topics of the novel and identify how they relate specifically to the world Dickens knew. The other thing I'd like to do is to think about this concept of transcending. So we know that the theme of greed is really relevant to the world Dickens knew, the Victorian world. Okay, so we know that these topics were relevant to the world of the Victorian world, and you know your teacher have probably told you that Dickens used to walk for hours and hours. He went to the most dangerous parts of London, and we're talking, you know, very, very dangerous, and poverty-stricken, to get real insights into what life was like for people. So he really did capture a sense of the world he knew. But this idea of transcending is the idea that it's bigger than that. That although A Christmas Carol is very time-specific, it's like a little insight into a world of the past, actually the themes are universally relevant. They're still as relevant to us as now. The message that money doesn't buy happiness and money only has value if you use it to do good, well, that's just relevant to us now. It still will be in 100 years' time, and it will be forever. The idea that poverty is awful and people who live in poverty suffer is true. Greed, terribly negative human behaviour that causes suffering for others. Childhood should be a time of joy and fun. Now, luckily for us in this country, the childhood has been preserved for many because we all go to school until 16 and, you know, we've got certain rights. But that's not the case for children all over the world. Lots of children still do not get an education and work in terribly dangerous jobs. Family and relationships with others, family not just being those we relate to, but the other humans we love, is still, again, as relevant. So really all I wanted you to be clear on is that the novel, the reason it's so wonderful and so heartwarming and is so popular so long after it's been written is because it does very much reflect concerns of the time, but these are concerns about human nature, about what it is to be a human, and these themes are relevant today as much as they were then. Luckily for us, life has got somewhat better. Okay, so we're going to try finish off this session today then with you doing some sentence writing in which we link all of this together. So we're going to try and link our knowledge of the time period to our knowledge of Dickens's message, based on these four themes: money, poverty, greed and childhood. So I've created a sentence parameter which will help you do this, which is written at a time when. So the idea is that after the word when, we write something about the world Dickens knew. And we use the key word, the key theme word, to help us. Once we've said something about the real world, we say what Dickens's message is. I'm going to do the first one and then I'm going to ask you to try the other three. So I am obviously going to start with money. So I'm going to say written at a time when, and I'm writing about money, so my next word will be money. And I'm going to try and talk about the fact that money was split very unevenly within the population. So where money was divided very unevenly within the population, with some people, to move this down a second, move that little box out the way, having a lot and others very little. So you see, all I've done there is I've explained something about money at the time. So written at a time where money was divided very unevenly within the population, with some people having a lot and others very little. But obviously that doesn't make sense as a complete sentence. So now I need to do my second half, which is Dickens presents the message that. Dickens presents the message that. So I can go back to my notes from earlier in this session, and we've got a whole list, haven't we, of Dickens's messages. We've already worked out that Dickens suggests that money does not buy happiness and only has value if used to do good. So I can write that. Dickens presents the message that money does not buy happiness and only has value if used to do good. Okay, so money, I can now code that one yellow because it's done. I'd like you to have a go at trying to write sentences like that for the other three. So you would say, written at a time when poverty, well, you know, we know a bit about poverty, we know, and you don't have to use poverty as the next word. So you could say, written at time of, if when makes the sentence not work, just change when to of. So written at a time of extreme poverty, or written at a time when there was very little help and people living in poverty were sent to the workhouse. So you can make it work in the sentence, but the word poverty needs to appear somewhere in this bit. Dickens presents the message that, then you go back to your notes, poverty is incredibly harsh, that the poor are people too, and poverty is a source of suffering. So I could say, written at a time when some people lived in extreme poverty and were punished by being sent to the workhouse, Dickens presents the message that the poor are people too and deserve more help rather than the misery of living in poverty. And then you do the same for greed, the same for childhood. Give it a go. Please message me if you have any questions. Email your class English teacher. They will endeavour to help you. And then tomorrow, come back for session 2. Bye, guys.